Hey guys, it's Andy. I'm going to show you how to coil, wait for it, a cylinder. You think of a cylinder as that basic shape you first learn to throw on a wheel. But when it comes to coiling, you don't hear of coiled cylinders very often, and that's because they present special challenges to coiling, keeping those walls straight and vertical and smooth so that you don't have little lumps every place a coil was attached. So it should be a fun project for you. So what were cylinders used for? Who was making cylinders in the ancient world? In the American Southwest where I live, Chaco Canyon is the place for cylinders. Chaco Canyon is this massive pueblo complex in northern New Mexico, built during Anasazi times. And that's where they find cylinders, lots of cylinders. There's only, I don't know, like 200 of them found anywhere in the Southwest, but most of them were found in or near Chaco Canyon. In fact, most of them were found in one particular room where there was this huge cache of cylinders. They're very interesting, and so then archaeologists and people like to speculate on what they were used for, and they must have had some ritual significance. Well, recently they did some studies and they found out what they were drinking out of their cylinders. So that is really interesting, and I'll tell you more about what they were drinking out of their cylinders later on in the video. If you're liking my videos, hit that subscribe button down below. That way you'll know when the next video comes out. Now let's get started coiling that cylinder. So obviously I've sped this up just to make it more timely. I think the entire process of forming this vessel was something like 45 minutes, less than an hour. So you start by patting out pancake. You can pat that out between your hands. You can roll it with a rolling pin. You can run it through a slab roller, whatever. I cut it into a circle using a puki. You can use anything, a glass, a cup, a bowl. Then I rolled out a coil. Now I'm just bonding the coil. For the first coil, I'm going to bond it inside and out just because that's a problem spot where that first coil attaches to make sure it's bonded well. Usually I just bond on the outside only. Now I'm on step 3, pinching it up. So once your coil is bonded, you're just going to pinch it up until the walls are as thin as you want. I usually shoot for about a 1/4 inch thick. You could go thicker or thinner. It depends a lot on the quality of your clay, how strong it is. I'm just trimming the base here because it kind of flared out a little bit, and that really wasn't what I wanted. I wanted a total cylinder. I've taken out a lot of the intermediate steps here, like rolling coils and so forth, just to keep the video short. Once I get the coil attached, bonded on the outside, I do not bond, as you can see, the inside, and I just start pinching it up. I use the paper plate just so I can easily turn it as I work on it. In traditional coil pottery, we often use what's called a puki, which is just a shallow dish. In this case, with a cylinder or a mug or something like that, you have a flat bottom. So you just need something to allow you to easily turn it without damaging the bottom. This is step 4, scraping the inside. I'm using a gourd scraper here that I'm keeping damp. Just scrape, and that obliterates the coil line, kind of smooths it all out, and also makes it more consistent. Gets rid of any lumps or bumps, fills in low places, that sort of thing. I'm being careful to get the bottom as well, in that corner where the walls meet the bottom of the cylinder, because once it's higher, it's going to be harder to get down in there and work. Now for scraping the outside, the edge of that paper plate was in my way, so I cut it off so that I can get down and scrape the outside good, from the bottom all the way up. make sure I've got the right thickness, smoothed on the inside and outside. I'm ready to add another coil. And so at this point, you can just repeat these steps we've already covered as many times as necessary until you reach the height you want. So this is a repeat of step 2, obviously attaching a coil, and now we're on to 3 where I'm pinching the coil up, gaining height by pinching it thinner. This is what you would call a flat pinch, just pinching flat and pulling it up. There's a little bit of compression in this as far as trying to keep the walls vertical, but mostly just pinching flat. If you just flat pinch all the way around, it will come out a little bit though and end up with more of a flower pot shape, so there is a little bit of compression pinching here as well. And now scraping the inside again. This time I'm not having to go all the way to the bottom since that's already scraped, but mainly just focusing on the portion I just added, that top maybe 2.5 or 3 inches there. Scraping the outside. Paying special attention to any problem spots, places where there's holes. Making sure you get that coil line completely obliterated. There'll always be a thick spot where that coil was attached, and so as you're working on this cylinder, you'll have to keep that in mind. Eventually put those kind of undulation that the vessel walls will have as where the coils are attached, and kind of put that on the inside and not on the outside, so it's not as visible. This particular cylinder was limited in height based on the amount of clay that I had. Otherwise, I would have made it higher. In this case, I'm trying to do long strokes from the bottom all the way to the top so that I can keep a consistent vessel wall. So it doesn't look like it, it was built in stages, but it's consistent and smooth and straight from the top to the bottom. There's always a little bit of imperfections in a hand-built piece, but I'm trying to make it as smooth and consistent as possible. But I'm also willing to accept a certain amount of that because that's the nature of hand-built pottery. And this is my last coil, and you'll see it's a lot thinner, and that's because I was at the end of my clay, so that's all I had pretty much. I trimmed the walls even before I added that last coil. That way I'll have minimal trimming when I'm going to add my rim. when I scrape the outside, I'm pushing it in. When I scrape the inside, I'm pushing it out. So those walls, you know, they push in, they push out. I'm looking for some kind of equilibrium in the end. But just keep that in mind. Sometimes when you're done scraping inside, you have to scrape outside again, and vice versa. But where we want the smoothest, straightest lines are on the outside. How'd you guys do on the cylinder coiling? If you try it, let me know how it comes out by leaving a comment below. Also, if you have any questions about the process, be sure to ask those and I'll answer them. Here's my cylinder. It's got a fresh coat of white slip on it. That's why it's the color it is, not the brown that you saw when I was coiling it and that you can see on the inside. I'll fire it later and I'll let you know how it comes out. So back to what I was talking about earlier. What they were using them for up at Chaco Canyon? They were drinking chocolate out of them. Studies have found residues of cocoa in the bottoms of these cylinders. Well, they're not exactly like this, but the Anasazi cylinders I showed you earlier. So pretty crazy, because the nearest chocolate is hundreds of miles away down in Mexico. It's trading it all the way up to northern New Mexico and drinking it in Anasazi times. If you're enjoying my videos, check out my website, ancientpottery.how. I've got a ton of free information from everything from coiling pottery to finding and processing clay and firing outdoors. And I have detailed video-based lessons that'll guide you through the whole process step by step. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.